Welcome to the deep dive. Ever feel like navigating the complexities of the business world is like trying to find your way through a dense fog?
hmm
Well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're cutting through that fog to shine a light on something truly fundamental to every successful organization: enterprise risk management frameworks, or ERM.
Yeah, ERM. It sounds technical, maybe?
It does, but this isn't just about avoiding problems, right? It's about anticipating challenges, transforming uncertainty into opportunity, and really building a robust roadmap to success. So let's dig in.
Indeed. And while the phrase risk management might initially bring to mind, images of endless spreadsheets or maybe daunting compliance checklists,
Right.
the COSO framework for enterprise risk management truly redefines this space. COSO, for those perhaps less familiar, is the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Treadway Commission. It's a highly influential private sector initiative. They've provided these foundational frameworks for, well, internal control, ERM, even fraud deterrence. Really forms the backbone of modern corporate governance.
That's quite a pedigree then.
It is. And what CICO-SO highlights and what we'll explore today is that ERM is far more fundamental. It's about how organizations strategically create, preserve, and ultimately realize value for all their stakeholders.
Value. That seems key.
Absolutely. It's not merely a shield against pitfalls, but actually a compass that points towards strategic opportunities. This deep dive, hopefully, will illuminate the intricate, often overlooked connection between value and risk in, well, basically every strategic decision an organization makes.
That's a powerful distinction right there. And for you, our dedicated listener, whether you're navigating your own career, maybe prepping for a big meeting, or just curious about how companies thrive in an increasingly turbulent world, or maybe you just love uncovering those aha moments. This deep dive is your shortcut to understanding the strategic heartbeat of successful organizations. Our mission today: to demystify ERM, reveal its practical power, and show you how it's adapting to address even the biggest global challenges we face today.
Sounds like a plan.
So let's start at the beginning then. Where did this whole holistic concept of ERM even originate? It's clearly more than just a passing buzzword, right?
Not at all. No, the foundational work, as I mentioned, comes from COS. They first issued their integrated framework for ERM back in 2004.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And before this, risk management was often, well, fragmented. You had individual departments or functions kind of operating in silos.
Right. Finance does its thing, IT does its thing.
Exactly. Finance might manage financial risk, IT handles cybersecurity risk, operations oversees production risks, but there was often very little connection or, overarching view. So the 2004 framework was really a pivotal moment because it pushed organizations to adopt a truly comprehensive, enterprise-wide perspective on risk. It helped them recognize that risks, well, they rarely exist in isolation.
They connect.
They interconnect, they cascade, they can influence each other in unexpected ways, so you really need that unified approach.
Okay, that makes sense. And it didn't just stop there in 2004, did it? It sounds like C also recognized the world kept changing, things got more complex.
Precisely, yes. In response to increasing global complexities, the rapid emergence of new and frankly unforeseen risks, think cyber attacks, geopolitical shifts.
Yeah, things we see all the time now.
Exactly. And there was a heightened demand for robust oversight from boards and executives. So Kyoso undertook a significant update in 2017.
Okay, so a big revision.
A big revision. And the new framework's title, Enterprise Risk Management Integrating with Strategy and Performance, isn't just, a linguistic tweak. It represents a profound philosophical shift.
How so?
Well, it moves ERM from being seen as a mere standalone compliance function to something deeply embedded within the very fabric of how an organization crafts its strategy, pursues its objectives, and ultimately gauges its performance.
So it's not just checking boxes anymore.
Not at all. The world had become faster, more interconnected, less predictable. So an integrated view of risk wasn't just a nice to have, it became an absolute strategic imperative. Boards weren't satisfied with simple risk lists. They demanded a sophisticated understanding of how risk influenced strategic choices and, importantly, value creation.
Okay, so when we strip it all down, what's the fundamental idea that underpins this entire framework? What's the core premise here?
The underlying premise is, well, quite profound, actually. Every organization, whether it's a multinational corporation, a nimble startup, or even a nonprofit,
Right.
it exists to provide value for its stakeholders. And a crucial insight here, often overlooked, is that every single entity faces risk when implementing the strategies designed to achieve that value.
Okay, so risk is unavoidable then.
Exactly. Risk isn't just an obstacle to be avoided, it's an inherent, unavoidable companion on the journey towards creating value. Think about it this way. If your goal is to build a groundbreaking new product that's value creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
You inherently face risks, technical challenges, market acceptance, competition, regulatory hurdles. You don't avoid the innovation because of the risk. You actively manage those risks to bring that value to fruition.
So ERM acknowledges risk is just part of the game.
It is. It's a constant dynamic factor in the pursuit of ambition. ERM is about making deliberate, informed choices about which risks to embrace, maybe which to mitigate, and how to manage them effectively to achieve your ultimate goals.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
To ensure we're all on the same page, could you give us clear, concise definitions for risk within this context, and then for ERM itself? Just nail those down for us.
Certainly. In the CSO framework, risk is defined as the possibility that events will occur and affect the achievement of strategy and business objectives.
Possibility.
Yeah, the emphasis is on possibility. It's not a certainty, but an event or circumstance that could happen. And if it does, it will impact your ability to hit your targets.
So like a competitor's move or a supply chain issue.
Exactly. Or a natural disaster, a shift in consumer preferences, a major cybersecurity breach. Each of these carries a possibility of altering your strategic trajectory, either preventing you from reaching goals or, forcing a costly detour.
Got it. And ERM itself.
Enterprise risk management is then defined as the culture, capabilities, and practices integrated with strategy setting and performance that organizations rely on to manage risk in creating, preserving, and realizing value.
Okay. Culture, capabilities, practices,
Yeah.
integrated. That sounds key.
It is critical. This definition moves beyond a simple checklist. It highlights ERM as an ongoing, deeply integrated organizational process, not a one-time project you complete and archive.
Right. Not just a report you file away.
No. Instead, it's a living, breathing part of how the organization thinks, acts, and makes strategic and operational decisions every single day. And the inclusion of culture is particularly significant
Why culture?
because it acknowledges that the collective mindset and behaviors of people, how they think about risk, are just as important as any formal systems or processes. It's this continuous cycle of anticipation, response, and learning. 1.2, understanding the concept of value in ERM.
Okay, you've mentioned value multiple times now, and it truly sounds like the central star of this entire ERM show. Who actually carries the torch for ensuring this value is created and, importantly, managed?
Well, the primary responsibility for making those decisions that support value creation and prevent its decline, it rests squarely with management.
Okay, day-to-day management.
Right, but alongside those charged with governance, like the board of directors, it's really a top-level imperative that permeates down.
So the board plays a big role, too.
A critical role. The board provides crucial oversight. They challenge management's assumptions about both risk and value, ensure the strategic direction is sound, and that the organization has robust mechanisms in place to not just generate, but also protect value for shareholders, employees, customers, the whole community.
So management executes, the board oversees. A check and balance.
Precisely. They offer the ultimate check and balance, ensuring accountability.
Now, is the definition of value universal across every type of organization? For instance, would a fast-growing tech startup see value the same way a long-established charitable organization would?
That's a crucial distinction, and no, it varies significantly based on the entity's purpose. For-profit commercial entities, they typically define and shape value by balancing exciting market opportunities against the inherent risks of pursuing them.
Right.
Take a tech startup. They might prioritize rapid market share acquisition, user-based growth, even if it means operating at a loss for several years.
Yeah, we see that a lot.
For them, long-term value is created through, say, network effects, data accumulation, ultimately market dominance. Their risk definition might revolve around moving too slowly, being out-innovated, or failing to achieve scale. Profitability, while important, often follows those initial value drivers.
Okay, so value isn't always just profit, especially at first.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with not-for-profit and governmental entities. For them, value is shaped by delivering goods and services that balance serving a broader community or public mandate against the associated risks.
So impact is their value?
Primarily, yes. Consider a large charity expanding its outreach programs into new regions. Their value isn't measured in quarterly profits, but in positive social impact, lives improved, efficient use of donor funds, fulfilling their specific mission.
And their risks are different too, presumably.
They are. The risks they manage might include resource strain, maybe mission creep where they spread too thin, reputational damage from misuse of funds, or failing to meet the actual needs of the communities they serve. So while the definition of value shifts, the core concept of balancing opportunity and risk remains central.
Okay, so management decisions aren't just about initiating value creation. They also profoundly influence its entire journey or life cycle. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, management decisions impact the development of value through four dynamic stages: creation, preservation, erosion, and realization. This gives us a really complete cyclical view of how value flows.
Okay, let's break those down. Creation first.
Right. First, value creation. This occurs when the benefits generated by an organization significantly exceed the cost of the resources utilized. And resources are broad people, money, tech, processes, even brand reputation, intellectual property.
Just getting more out than you put in, basically.
In essence, yes. Think of a biotech company investing hundreds of millions in R&D for a breakthrough cancer treatment. If that drug succeeds, gets approved, becomes a market leader, the societal benefits and revenue generated far surpass those initial costs. It's an exponential return.
Got it. Next is preservation.
Value preservation. This is about sustaining those created benefits efficiently and effectively within ongoing operations, protecting the value you've already built.
And maintaining momentum.
Exactly. A classic example. A well-established car manufacturer consistently delivering high-quality vehicles and great customer service. They preserve value by maintaining brand loyalty, optimizing supply chains, refining production. It's less about new leaps, more about consistent, high-quality delivery.
Yeah. Then the opposite must be erosion.
Unfortunately, yes. Value erosion. This is a decline in value caused by, well, faulty strategic decisions, inefficient operations, or just a failure to adapt.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. A stark historical example is Blockbuster failing to pivot to digital streaming as Netflix emerged. Their value eroded rapidly because their core strategy became outdated.
Right, they just missed the boat.
Completely. And value erosion can be gradual, maybe from complacency or minor missteps, or it can be sudden and dramatic due to disruption, major product failures, severe reputational damage. It's the slow leak, or sometimes the sudden burst.
Yikes. Okay, and the final stage.
Finally, we arrive at value realization. This is the culmination point, when the benefits created are actually received by the stakeholders.
So the payoff.
The payoff. It can be monetary, like dividends for shareholders, higher stock prices, better wages for employees. But it can also be non-monetary. Think of the tangible positive impact from a nonprofit improved literacy rates from an education program, better public health from an awareness campaign. It's the ultimate manifestation where the purpose comes full circle.
So given this complete life cycle of value, creation, preservation, erosion, realization,
Right.
what's the ultimate implication for ERM itself? How does ERM truly connect to all this?
Well, the real power here, the key insight, is that organizations constantly encounter risks that threaten their ability to provide or optimize value for stakeholders throughout all those four stages.
Right, risks pop up everywhere.
Everywhere. And ERM provides a structured, proactive framework specifically designed to manage these risks. Its ultimate aim is to equip management and the board with a reasonable expectation, a realistic, though not absolute, belief that their organization's value objectives can be achieved.
Reasonable expectation, not a guarantee.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond reactive damage control. Instead of waiting for a crisis and scrambling, ERM helps an organization identify potential threats and, crucially, potential opportunities in advance.
Opportunities too?
Yes. This allows them to make informed, deliberate decisions about resource allocations, strategic shifts, operational adjustments, all aimed at maximizing the chances of value creation and minimizing potential erosion. It's fundamentally about building inherent organizational resilience and agility. 1.3 ERM and strategy, aligning attitudes with aspirations.
Okay, so ERM isn't just about the financial statements. It's not just about the numbers. It sounds like it's intimately tied to an organization's very identity, its soul even. How do an organization's inherent attitudes toward risk play into this deep connection?
This is absolutely crucial, yeah. ERM recognizes that an organization's attitudes toward risk fundamentally shape its deeply held mission, its inspiring vision for the future, and its common values that guide daily behavior.
Wow, okay.
And the consistency, the alignment of these risk attitudes with that mission, vision, and core values. It's vital for truly achieving value objectives. Think of it as the organizational compass.
A compass.
Yeah, if your internal attitudes towards risk are misaligned with your stated destination, your journey will be inefficient, confusing, and ultimately unsuccessful.
Like wanting to innovate but being terrified of failure.
Precisely. If a company proclaims itself an innovative leader, but fosters an extremely risk-averse culture that penalizes experimentation, those two elements are in direct conflict. It paralyzes progress, undermines its identity. The attitude isn't just how much risk, but what kinds of risk are acceptable and why they align with your purpose.
Got it. For our listeners, could you briefly just touch on what those three core identity terms, mission, vision, and core values, truly represent in a business context? Just a quick definition.
Certainly. These three elements, they form the bedrock of an organization's identity. The mission represents the core purpose, why it exists today, what it aims to accomplish in its current state. It's the reason for being, the present identity, like to responsibly power communities through sustainable energy.
Okay, the why now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then the vision represents the aspirations, what it hopes to achieve over a longer time frame, its future ideal state, the destination on the horizon. Following that example, a vision might be to be the global leader in renewable energy infrastructure.
Where we're going.
And core values are the deeply held beliefs and ideals about what's good or bad, acceptable or unacceptable. The ethical boundaries, the guiding principles, influencing behavior and defining character.
Like integrity, innovation.
Exactly. Integrity in all dealings, customer obsession, relentless innovation, commitment to sustainability, employee empowerment. They dictate how the organization pursues its mission and vision.
So these aren't just fluffy statements for the website, like you said. They profoundly influence how an organization makes practical decisions about risk.
Precisely. And this is a crucial takeaway. Mission and vision directly correlate with strategy and the specific business objectives an organization sets.
Like,
Your core purpose and your long-term dreams dictate the strategic paths you choose. And every one of those paths inherently carries risks. If your fundamental risk attitudes within the organization don't align with these foundational elements, mission, vision, values, you are setting yourself up for deep misalignment.
can you give an example of that misalignment?
Sure, if your mission is to be the cheapest provider in a market, you might implicitly accept higher operational risks. Maybe pushing boundaries on labor costs or supply chain vulnerabilities, that's an attitude.
Right.
If your mission is to be the most innovative disruptor, you'll inherently accept more R&D failure risks, market acceptance risks, maybe even reputational risks from rapid development.
Different risk profiles for different missions.
Exactly. And the attitudes towards those risks must be consistent with the identity and ambition. A significant mismatch between stated values or goals and actual risk attitudes. It inevitably leads to strategy faltering, value eroding, decisions based on conflicting signals. It's like trying to drive somewhere while fighting your own steering wheel. 1 point for culture, capabilities, and practices. The ERM triad.
You've emphasized that ERM isn't merely a specific exercise or a single department, but rather this dynamic interaction of culture, capabilities, and practices. Could you expand on that triad a bit more?
Certainly. Yeah, ERM is the collective, ongoing, dynamic interaction of these three interconnected elements. They all work synergistically to support the development and successful execution of the company's strategy. It's a dynamic interplay, not a static checklist.
Okay, so let's start with culture again.
Okay, culture. This represents the collective thinking, the shared values, the ingrained behaviors within an organization. Each individual, has unique points of reference, past experiences that influence how they identify, assess, and choose to respond to risk.
So it's how people instinctively react.
Largely, yes. Culture plays an incredibly vital, often subconscious role in shaping everyday risk decisions. For instance, if the prevailing culture is one where mistakes are hidden or punished severely,
Yeah.
employees will naturally be less likely to openly surface potential risks. That leads to dangerous blind spots.
Right. Fear stifles honesty.
Absolutely. Conversely, if the culture fosters open communication, psychological safety, a learning mindset, risks get identified faster, discussed more transparently, addressed more effectively. And a critical takeaway here is that core values correlate strongly with culture. They are the bedrock upon which a truly risk-aware, resilient culture is built.
So values have to be lived, not just stated.
Exactly. If a company's stated value is courageous innovation, its culture must encourage taking calculated risks and learning from failures, not just avoiding them. It's about building a collective intelligence around risk.
So culture truly sets the stage for how risk is perceived, discussed, and ultimately handled at every level. It's the foundation.
Absolutely. It's the invisible hand guiding everyday decisions, often more powerfully than any written policy. And when an organization genuinely understands that managing risk means being willing and capable of navigating change, adapting strategically, even exploiting uncertainty,
Exploiting uncertainty, that's interesting.
yes, it gains a profound competitive advantage. This ability to adapt, to pivot, to transform potential crises into opportunities is deeply embedded within the capabilities aspect of ERM.
Okay, so capabilities are the how.
Capabilities are the how. Think of a major logistics company quickly rerouting its global supply chain during a geopolitical crisis, or a software firm rapidly shifting its product roadmap responding to an emerging tech trend.
Right.
Their deep-seated capabilities, skilled people, agile processes, adaptive technology combined with a culture that supports rapid decision-making allows them to turn potential disruption into strategic advantage. They seize opportunities that less agile competitors miss. It's having the muscle and the mindset to respond effectively.
Muzzle and mindset, I like that. Okay, and the third leg of the triad, practices.
Practices, yes. These encompass the concrete methods, the systematic approaches, the established processes an organization employs to manage risk. ERM, as a practical discipline, is an organizational practice that's continually applied across all activities, all levels. It's explicitly integrated into day-to-day management decisions, not done in isolation.
So it's embedded in everything.
Ideally, yes. This isn't just about having a dedicated risk department. It's about embedding risk considerations into everything from, say, the initial stages of product development to designing marketing campaigns, making critical hiring decisions, evaluating major capital investments. It's how risk thinking becomes an inherent, almost unconscious part of the operational DNA, ensuring every decision is made with an eye on its potential risks and rewards.
So it's definitively not a one-off project or a quarterly report, but a continuous, systemic way of operating, like breathing.
Exactly. It's a continuous, integrated approach that permeates every layer. It ensures strategy setting and ongoing operations actively promote an understanding of how risk affects the entire entity and, crucially, how it drives decision-making consistent with its established risk attitudes.
So the questions change.
They do. When a new strategic initiative comes up, like entering a new market, the immediate questions aren't solely what's the potential revenue, but also what are the significant risks? How do they align with our risk appetite? What new capabilities do we need to manage them? This integrated thinking, this constant consideration of risk alongside opportunity, that's the true transformative power of a well-implemented ERM framework. 1.5, managing risk linked to value, reasonable expectation, and risk appetite.
Okay, with all this talk of value, strategy, culture, capabilities, how does ERM actually translate into achieving an organization's goals? What's the tangible output or benefit? What do you actually get from doing all this?
The output is quite significant, actually. ERM practices are meticulously designed to provide management and the board with a reasonable expectation that the organization's overall strategy and its specific business objectives can indeed be achieved.
Reasonable expectation again.
Yes, and CRS defines this not as an absolute guarantee because, let's be clear, no one predicts the future perfectly,
Right.
but rather as a realistic, well-founded belief that objectives will be met within the organization's carefully defined risk appetite. ERM brings a profound level of clarity, discipline, and foresight to decision-making. It's about significantly increasing the likelihood of success, not eliminating all uncertainty.
So it improves your odds?
Substantially. It provides a robust level of assurance that risks have been systematically considered, analyzed, managed, thereby reducing the chances of major unforeseen negative impacts or costly disruptions.
And risk appetite sounds like a fundamental concept here. You've mentioned it a few times. What exactly does it encapsulate? What is risk appetite?
Risk appetite is precisely what it sounds like. It represents the types and amounts of risk, at a broad strategic level, that an organization is willing to accept in its pursuit of value.
Willing to accept. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a rigid single line, but more accurately a range or spectrum. It provides clear guidance on what activities an organization is encouraged to pursue versus those it should avoid or approach with extreme caution. It's a top-level strategic decision fundamentally shaped by the board and senior leadership.
How is it expressed? Is it written down somewhere?
It often is, but it's also implicitly expressed first in the mission and vision statements themselves.
Ah, Back to those.
Back to those. A cutting-edge tech company aiming to innovate rapidly and disrupt markets inherently has a vastly different risk appetite than, say, a conservative public utility focused on stable, consistent infrastructure.
Right. One embraces risk, the other minimizes it.
In certain areas, yes. The former accepts more R&D failure risk, market acceptance risk, competitive disruption. The latter prioritizes operational stability, regulatory compliance, reliability above all else.
And it can change, right? It's not set in stone.
Absolutely not static. It needs flexibility to adapt to changing conditions. During an economic downturn, a company's risk appetite might temporarily shrink as it prioritizes capital preservation over aggressive growth. It's dynamic, not a fixed dogma.
So how does this clearly defined risk appetite directly connect back to the core idea of value? What's the link?
Well, managing risk within its defined risk appetite significantly enhances an organization's ability to create, preserve, and ultimately realize value.
Okay.
ERM proactively seeks to align the anticipated value creation with both the organization's strategic risk appetite and its existing capabilities for managing risk over time. It's about making truly deliberate, informed choices about precisely what risks to take on,
Choices, okay.
with a clear understanding that those risks are calculated and expected to contribute directly to specific desired value outcomes.
Can you give an example?
Sure, a global investment bank might have a very low risk appetite for regulatory non-compliance. So it invests heavily in robust compliance systems, stringent controls, thereby preserving its license to operate and its reputation that's preserving value. Conversely, a pharmaceutical company might have a high-risk appetite for drug development failures. They understand many experiments will fail, but the one successful breakthrough drug could generate billions in revenue and immense societal value.
So they accept that risk for the potential reward.
Exactly. In both cases, the risk appetite directly informs and influences the pathway to value. It's a conscious, strategic trade-off. 2.1, the grand design. ERM as intertwined components.
Okay, so we've covered the why, the strategic imperative, and the what, the core definitions, concepts like value and risk appetite. Now let's get into the how. How does this actually work in practice? I understand there's a powerful framework, almost like a meticulously designed system of interconnected parts that guides organizations.
Indeed. Yeah, the COSO ERM framework isn't a linear checklist. It depicts enterprise risk management as a dynamic series of sequential yet intricately intertwined components.
Intertwined, okay.
Yeah, they don't operate in isolation. They collectively drive an organization toward enhanced value. The crucial insight here is that critical alignment between robust risk management and the organization's overarching strategy.
Alignment again?
It's central, and this alignment must be deeply embedded throughout the entire company, spanning all functions, every level of decision-making. It's not an add-on, it's woven into the very fabric of how an organization thinks and acts.
It sounds like a continuous reinforcing loop, maybe starting at the very top of the organization and flowing through.
Yes, precisely. You can visualize it as a powerful iterative process. It begins with the mission, vision, core values, the ultimate drivers.
Right, a foundation.
These lead directly to strategy development. That strategy informs the formulation of specific business objectives. Then comes implementation and ongoing performance management, all leading to enhanced value. And underneath this entire cycle, acting as constant support and interaction layer, are the 5 core components we'll explore now.
The 5 components.
Yes, and the tone at the top set by leadership, plus pervasive transparent communication, are the threads weaving through and binding it all together. It's truly dynamic performance outcomes feedback, influencing how mission, vision, risk perception might need adjustment.
So it learns and adapts.
It has to. If a strategy consistently underperforms due to unforeseen risks, it might prompt a review of risk appetite or even a reevaluation of the mission itself. Course corrections are built in. It's never static, always adapting.
And there are 5 of these interrelated components, supported by 20 underlying principles, Is that right? How are they broadly structured?
That's right. 5 components, 20 principles. The 5 components, and some might recognize a conceptual resemblance to COSO's internal control cube, but adapted for broader enterprise risk issues, are...
Okay, what are they?
1, governance and culture, that's the foundation.
Yeah.
2, strategy and objective setting, defining the direction. 3, performance, where action is taken.
Right.
4, review and revision, the critical feedback loop.
Got it.
And 5, information, communication, and reporting, which acts as the essential connective tissue throughout.
Okay, 5 components. And each has principles.
Correct. Each component is underpinned by specific actionable principles, 20 in total guiding implementation. These principles provide the detailed guidance, ensuring a comprehensive, effective, truly integrated ERM system. Understanding these is key to grasping the framework's depth and utility. 2.2 Component 1. Governance and culture, the foundation DOV's principles.
Okay, let's start at the foundation then, component 1, governance and culture. This sounds like the bedrock where the entire ERM system really takes root.
It absolutely does. These two, governance and culture, are intrinsically linked. Together, they form the essential bedrock for all other aspects of ERM.
So governance first.
Governance sets the entity's critical tone at the top. This means senior leadership, particularly the board, actively signals the profound importance of ERM throughout the organization. They establish clear, undeniable oversight responsibilities.
So it's about leadership signals.
Very much so. It involves the board and senior management setting direction, allocating resources to risk management, defining accountability for risk decisions across the enterprise. Leading by example, showing robust risk management is strategic, not just a compliance task.
Okay.
And culture.
Culture is then organically reflected in everyday decision-making. It profoundly influences how risks are perceived, discussed, and ultimately handled. If the culture rewards excessive risk-taking without controls or hides mistakes, even the best governance structures can fail spectacularly. Conversely, a culture embracing transparency, learning from failures, open dialogue around risk can transform challenges into opportunities. It's finding that crucial balance aligning with strategic goals and risk appetite. So what are the specific principles that articulate and build out this foundational component? You mentioned an acronym.
Yes, there are 5 key principles, easily remembered using the acronym DOVES. DOVES.
Okay, DOVES. Let's go through them. D.
D defines desired culture. The organization proactively defines the behaviors characterizing its desired culture. This is critical because it directly influences how it identifies risk, what types of risk it accepts, how it manages them.
So you choose your culture.
You choose how risk-taking aligns with who you are. Culture exists on a spectrum. Risk-averse, like a nuclear plant where safety is paramount.
Right.
To risk-neutral, to risk-aggressive, like a disruptive tech startup focused on rapid growth. It's a deliberate, conscious choice. A pharma company needs a safety-first, risk-averse culture for drug development. A software startup might embrace fail-fast, a more risk-aggressive approach. The culture must fit the purpose.
Makes sense.
OCO exercises board oversight. The board provides crucial, active oversight for strategy and governance, supporting management and achieving objectives. The board needs diverse skills, relevant experience, deep knowledge.
They need to know their stuff.
They do. Staying informed, maintaining an active, fiercely independent, accountable role. This means frequent, substantive conversations with management, rigorously assessing ERM design and effectiveness. Challenging assumptions, asking probing questions, ensuring the system is integrated, functioning, adapting. They're the ultimate check and balance.
Okay, V.
V demonstrates commitment to core values. This means the organization doesn't just state its values, it actively lives them through behaviors, decisions, reward systems.
Walks the talk.
Exactly. Without unequivocal support from the top, risk awareness gets undermined, decisions become inconsistent with stated values. Imagine a bank claiming integrity but tolerating shady sales practices. That's a disconnect.
Yeah, huge disconnect.
True commitment means values are visibly integrated into performance reviews, compensation, daily operations, leadership behaviors. A consistent, powerful message.
Got it.
E. Attracts, develops, and retains capable individuals, employees. Emphasizes building human capital aligned with strategy and objectives. Accountability starts with the board selecting exec leadership who then delegate. HR plays a vital role ensuring competent teams by considering knowledge, skills, experience, judgment, authority, cost-benefit.
So getting the right people.
And developing them. Ongoing training, mentoring, evaluation, robust succession planning for key roles. For ERM, you need people not just with technical skills, but strong ethical judgment, a proactive mindset, understanding how their actions impact the overall risk profile. The right people, right roles, right mindset.
Okay, and finally S.
S establishes operating structure, how the entity formally organizes day-to-day operations to pursue strategy and objectives. It ensures risk management practices are structurally aligned with core values.
Structure matters.
It does. Clearly defining lines of authority, transparent reporting relationships, designing robust processes, facilitating effective risk identification, assessment, management, and a key insight. Success is impeded if culture behavior's decisions doesn't align with core values and risk appetite. Strategy must be compatible with culture.
So you can't have a fast strategy with a slow structure.
It makes it incredibly difficult. The structure needs to enable the culture and strategy to work in harmony.
Wow. Okay, it sounds like this first component, governance and culture, truly establishes the entire mental model, the very ethos, for how an organization fundamentally thinks about and actively responds to risk. It really is the foundational mindset.
It truly is. Get this wrong, and the rest of the framework struggles. 2.3 Component 2, Strategy and Objective Setting, the Direction SOR Principles.
Okay, so once that foundational culture and robust governance are firmly in place, how does ERM actually integrate with the crucial process of setting the organization's future path? The strategic direction.
Right. This is where ERM becomes an inseparable part of the entity's strategic planning. It's about setting the overarching strategy and then formulating specific business objectives while simultaneously considering all relevant internal and external factors that might affect risk within that dynamic business context.
Simultaneously, not after the fact.
Exactly. A crucial point often missed. An organization should establish and refine its risk appetite in conjunction with strategy setting, not as an isolated afterthought.
Why is that timing so important?
It ensures the level of risk the organization is willing to undertake is directly aligned with its strategic ambitions and potential rewards from the start. Then, specific business objectives translate that high-level strategy into practical, measurable, day-to-day operational priorities and actions.
Okay. What are the principles guiding this component of setting direction? Is there another acronym?
There is indeed 4 key principles recalled using the acronym SOS. SOAR.
Okay,
S evaluates alternative strategies. This involves rigorously evaluating different strategic paths or choices and their potential effect on the composite risks the organization faces during implementation. Strategy isn't chosen in a vacuum.
Right, there are always options.
Always. And it must be evaluated from 2 critical perspectives. First, does it align with the mission, vision, core values we just discussed? Second, what are the inherent implications, the specific risks, the exciting opportunities associated with each chosen strategy? Misaligned strategies impede mission achievement, erode value.
And this leads to a risk profile.
Yes, the identified risks, when aggregated, form a risk profile, a composite, holistic view of all assumed risks at a particular level, helping management understand types, severity, and crucially, interdependencies.
With the lender example you gave earlier.
Exactly. A lender setting rates considers default risk, purchasing power risk, rate fluctuations, etc. Longer term means higher composite risk, needing a higher rate. This evaluation isn't just avoiding bad choices, it's making the most informed, value-maximizing choices.
Makes sense.
O formulates business objectives. These are the specific, measurable, actionable steps an organization commits to taking to achieve its broader strategy. They must unequivocally align with the entity's defined risk appetite.
SMART goals, basically.
Essentially, yes. Specific, measurable, or observable, attainable, relevant. Objectives span dimensions. Financial targets, customer satisfaction, operational efficiency, compliance, innovation milestones. But setting overly aggressive targets can directly impact the risk profile, potentially forcing excessive or unmanaged risks. Like aiming for a 50% market share growth in a year might require aggressive tactics, increasing reputational risk, legal challenges, or quality compromises if not managed carefully. Objectives need ambition, but also realism calibrated within risk tolerance.
Got it. A.
Analyzes business context. COS defines business context as the intricate web of trends, events, relationships, other factors influencing, clarifying, or changing current and future strategy and objectives.
Well, understanding the world around you.
And inside you. Think increasing competition, accelerating tech, new regulations, shifts in consumer behavior, emerging market barriers. These reshape risk and opportunity landscapes. Understanding this context is paramount. It's like knowing the weather and terrain before a complex journey.
So you can anticipate challenges and spot opportunities.
Precisely. Helps you develop truly adaptive strategies. A company making a mobile app needs to track evolving privacy laws, competitor moves, shifting user expectations. Ignoring context means operating in a vacuum, leading to critical blind spots.
Okay, and R.
R defines risk appetite. Revisited here emphasizes the continuous process of defining and refining risk appetite, specifically within the context of creating, preserving, realizing value.
Defining it again.
Refining it in context. As mentioned, it can be qualitative, low appetite for environmental noncompliance, high appetite for R&D failures, or quantitative, willing to lose up to 5% revenue on a new launch, credit default rate below 2%.
How do you choose qualitative versus quantitative?
The best approach aligns with how the entity generally assesses and discusses risk. It's an ongoing, crucial exercise, meticulously balancing potential risks and opportunities to find the optimal, sustainable path forward. Not avoiding all risk that's stagnation, but making deliberate, informed choices about which risks to strategically embrace and how much to best achieve long-term goals. It's the compass needle guiding decisions.
So this strategy and objective setting component is really about meticulously plotting the course, knowing the dangers and rewards, and setting clear boundaries for how much risk you'll embrace to confidently reach your destination.
That's a perfect summary. 2.4, Component 3, Performance, the execution vapor principles.
Okay, strategy set, objectives clear. Now we move into the crucial performance phase, component 3. How does ERM actually guide the organization's actions, the tangible doing, where the rubber meets the road, so to speak?
Exactly. The performance component is where strategy truly comes to life. It's all about actively identifying and rigorously assessing the risks that might directly affect an entity's ability to achieve its strategy and business objectives.
Identifying and assessing.
Yes. These identified risks are then systematically prioritized based on their severity and alignment with the organization's risk appetite. Then appropriate effective risk responses are selected and implemented. And crucially, performance is continually monitored for changes or emerging issues.
So it's an ongoing cycle within performance, too.
It is. The ultimate output is a comprehensive portfolio view describing the total aggregated risk assumed by the organization in pursuing its strategy. This is where theoretical plans meet practical realities and risks are actively managed in real time.
What are the specific principles governing this critical execution component? Another acronym, perhaps.
You guessed it. 5 crucial principles captured by the acronym VPR, VAPIR.
KPR. Okay, V.
V develops portfolio view. This involves creating that composite, entity-wide view of all risks, not just a list, but a dynamic, interconnected picture. It allows management and the board to holistically consider diverse types, severity, and critical interdependencies of risks.
Seeing the whole picture. Exactly. Understanding how risks collectively affect performance and align with overall risk appetite. Instead of departments managing risks in isolation, the portfolio view aggregates them, revealing the true aggregate exposure. Vital for seeing the forest, not just the trees. Cyber risk in IT might link to operational risk in manufacturing, reputational risk in marketing. The portfolio view reveals those hidden connections.
Got it.
A, assesses severity of risk. Once identified, risks are rigorously evaluated for severity. This assessment informs resource deployment to keep risk within appetite. Severity is assessed at multiple levels: divisions, functions, units relating to both impact, the effect if it happens, and likelihood. I think that probably.
Ilk and likelihood.
Yeah.
Standard risk matrix stuff.
It often involves that, yes. Can be qualitative,
Right.
high, medium, low, or quantitative probability of $6 million loss. This principle also introduces 3 crucial concepts.
Okay.
Inherent risk. The raw, unmitigated risk before any management actions or controls. The inherent risk of a hurricane hitting a beachfront resort is high before any preventative measures. Target residual risk. The preferred or desired amount of risk after management intends to implement or has implemented actions. For the resort, after storm-resistant building and evacuation plans, it's the acceptable remaining exposure they aim for.
Okay.
And actual residual risk. The risk that actually remains after management has acted. Sometimes this differs from the target, indicating actions were more or less effective or new risks emerged. This comparison drives continuous improvement.
Inherent target residual. Actual residual. Got it.
It prioritizes risk. Systematically prioritizing risks to determine the most effective, efficient responses. Organizations must make informed strategic and resource allocation decisions considering trade-offs, especially with finite resources.
You can't fix everything.
Exactly. Factors like severity, importance of the related objective, risk appetite are considered. Focus resources where they deliver greatest impact, aligning with critical strategic priorities. Maybe invest heavily in cybersecurity for IP, but accept higher risk for minor operational disruption.
Makes sense.
Identifies risks, events,
Yeah.
actively creating and maintaining a comprehensive risk inventory, a thorough listing of all potential risks affecting performance. not a one-time exercise.
Keep looking for them.
Continuously. New and emerging risks are identified. Existing ones reevaluated using brainstorming, scenario analysis, data review, benchmarking, expert interviews, continuous proactive scanning of internal and external environments. This inventory is the raw material for the rest of the performance component.
Okay.
That R implements risk responses. Once risks are identified, assessed, prioritized, concrete actions are taken. Responses generally fall into 5 categories.
5 ways to respond.
Yes, except take no action, suitable when risk is within appetite or mitigation cost outweighs benefit, like accepting a minor IT bug.
Okay.
Avoid, remove the risk entirely, maybe by exiting a business line or market. Appropriate when a risk can't be mitigated or severity is too high, like avoiding a politically unstable region.
Right.
Pursue. Consciously accept increased risk for improved performance or strategic advantage, often with bold innovation or market entry. Launching an unproven product involves market risk, but potential upside justifies the pursuit, if understood and within tolerance.
Calculated risk-taking.
Exactly. Reduce, the most common. Taking deliberate actions to lessen severity, impact, or likelihood via mitigation. New controls, process improvements, tech investment, training, like multi-factor authentication, reducing data breach risk, and share. Reducing severity by transferring part of the risk. Outsourcing functions, purchasing insurance for disasters, liability, business interruption.
Okay. Accept, avoid, pursue, reduce, share.
Correct. And crucially, the choice of response might even trigger a review of strategic objectives, showing how dynamic the process is.
This truly is the action phase, then, where the organization transitions from planning to doing, making deliberate choices about how to confront, mitigate, and even strategically embrace different levels of risk in its operations.
Precisely. It's where the plans meet reality. 2.5 Component 4. Review and revision. The feedback loops or principles.
Okay, so we've set the stage with governance and culture, plotted the course with strategy and objectives, and executed the plan in the performance phase. But as you said, the world doesn't stand still. It's constantly shifting. That's where review and revision, component 4, comes in, right? It sounds like the critical feedback loop.
Absolutely. This component underscores a fundamental truth. Entities must continuously evaluate their strategies and business objectives because the dynamic business context constantly shifts.
Got to keep checking.
Constantly. Organizations need to rigorously review their practices, proactively supplement capabilities as needed, ensuring objectives remain appropriate and achievable given the evolving risk appetite. It's the indispensable mechanism for continuous improvement, learning, vital adaptation.
So it prevents things from getting stale.
Exactly. Without this robust feedback loop, even the most meticulously designed system would quickly become stagnant, outdated, ineffective in our volatile, uncertain, complex world. It prevents complacency.
What are the specific principles guiding this crucial process of learning and adaptation? Another acronym.
You know it. 3 key principles, concisely summarized by SIR. S-I-R. S assesses substantial change. The entity actively identifies and rigorously assesses both internal and external changes that could substantially affect strategy and objectives. Not minor tweaks, significant shifts.
Like what kind of shifts?
Major shifts in business context, new global competitor, recession. Profound changes in culture post-merger. Significant innovation or tech breakthroughs, emergence of AI. Rapid growth or contraction. Changes in key leadership. Major shifts in regulatory environment, new privacy laws.
Okay, big stuff.
Big stuff. Think disruptive tech rendering a product line obsolete or a regulatory update requiring costly new compliance. Each demands comprehensive reassessment of the risk landscape and strategic plans.
Got it.
I pursues improvement in enterprise risk management. Actively encourages the organization to continuously seek opportunities to enhance the overall efficiency, effectiveness, usefulness of the framework itself.
So improving the improvement process.
Essentially, yes. Making stronger, more agile, ensuring it remains robust and fit for purpose, not just passively accepting its current state. This could involve adopting new tech for better risk analytics, structural changes to governance for faster decisions, new communication initiatives for a stronger risk culture. It's committing to refining the risk management process itself, learning from successes and failures, continuously elevating its sophistication.
Okay. And R.
Our reviews, risk and performance. Organizations must systematically evaluate actual performance against established targets. This involves critically determining if relevant risks were accurately identified and appropriately considered during planning and execution.
Looking back at what happened.
Yes, and also actively scanning for any new or emerging risks not initially anticipated. Based on these insights, the organization decides if changes are needed to overall risk appetite or existing responses. Subsequently, it makes necessary revisions to strategy, objectives, or its fundamental approach to assessing, prioritizing, responding to risks.
Closing the loop.
Exactly. The culmination of the learning cycle. Learn from what occurred, meticulously compare it to what was expected, then intelligently adjust future plans, resource allocations, even strategic direction. If a product launch missed targets due to unforeseen market resistance, the review asks, was that risk properly identified, mitigated? What changes are needed next time? It's a dynamic, iterative cycle of learning and adaptation.
So this component ensures that ERM doesn't become that static, dusty plan on a shelf, but remains a truly living, breathing, continuously evolving part of the organization's strategic DNA.
Yeah.
It ensures agility.
That's precisely the goal. 2.6, Component 5, Information, Communication, and Reporting, the connective tissue tip principles.
Finally, Component 5, Information, Communication, and Reporting. This sounds like the essential glue, maybe the central nervous system, that holds everything else together in the framework.
It is indeed the indispensable connective tissue. Yeah, communication within ERM is a continual, iterative process of rigorously obtaining, sharing, interpreting vital information across every level, every function.
Information flow.
Critical. Management relies heavily on relevant info from internal sources, operational data, internal audit findings, and external sources. Market intelligence, regulatory updates, geopolitical analyses to fully support ERM. This involves effectively leveraging sophisticated information systems to accurately capture, efficiently process, intelligently manage vast amounts of data.
Data is key.
It is. This component ensures the organization can report effectively, transparently on risk exposures, risk culture, overall performance, and ongoing process throughout the entire ERM lifecycle. Without effective, timely communication, even brilliant risk analysis fails to inform critical decisions. Invaluable insights get lost in silos. It's the circulation system for knowledge.
What are the specific principles driving this vital communication and information flow? Last acronym.
Last one for the components. 3 core principles remembered as TIP.
Okay, T.
Leverages information and technology. The organization strategically utilizes its IT systems to provide truly relevant, actionable information. This sophisticated leveraging fosters remarkable agility in decision-making and, critically, provides a significant competitive advantage.
Different info for different needs.
Exactly. Different types support different levels and aspects of ERM decision-making for governance and culture. Info on conduct standards, ethical guidelines, individual performance ensures ethical behavior, adherence to values. For strategy and objective setting. Info on stakeholder expectations about risk appetite is vital, ensuring strategies align with what key parties accept. Market research, investor sentiment, regulatory trends.
Okay.
For performance. Dynamic info on competitors, emerging trends, internal anomalies helps continuously assess risk exposure, identify new opportunities. For review and revision. Info on emerging ERM best practices, regulatory changes, new tech might require updates to the framework itself.
And managing all that data.
Effective data management is integral. Robust data governance for quality, processes, and controls for reliability, a scalable data architecture driven by management's needs. Categorizing info helps assess risk concentrations, identify vulnerabilities, amend responses strategically. It's having the right data, right format, right time.
Got it.
I communicates risk information. The organization uses diverse channels to effectively communicate vital risk information to all relevant internal and external stakeholders, including, crucially, the board.
What channels?
Formal risk reports, regular committee meetings, internal memos, dedicated risk dashboards, even informal but purposeful discussions. The effectiveness of these methods must be regularly evaluated. Is info clear, concise, actionable, timely, reaching the right people?
Tailoring the message.
Yes. Adapting message in detail for different audiences. What the board needs differs from what an operational manager needs. Clear, consistent messaging builds shared understanding.
And P.
P reports on risk, culture, and performance. Systematically provides comprehensive reports illuminating the intricate relationships among risk, culture, performance. Generated at multiple levels, departmental, divisional, enterprise-wide, distributed across the entity.
What's in these reports?
Can be quantitative, risk metrics, loss figures, or qualitative narratives on trends, cultural assessments, directed to management, risk owners, assurance providers, external stakeholders like investors, regulators. Risk reporting can cover portfolio risk, aggregate view, profile risk specific area, new emerging risks, trends over time.
And reporting on culture. How do you measure that?
It actively seeks to measure and provide feedback on behaviors, attitudes related to risk. Maybe through employee surveys, advanced analytics, benchmarking, detailed lessons learned and analyses from past incidents. The frequency and depth of reporting should always be proportionate to the severity, priority, velocity of the risk. High priority, fast-moving risk might need daily updates. Stable, lower impact risk, maybe quarterly review. Tailoring the flow to meet precise needs.
So this entire component ensures that everyone who needs to know, from the architects of the biggest strategic vision down to those managing daily operations, possesses the right information at the right time, making decisions that are always informed and aligned. It truly is the circulatory system of effective ERM.
Well put, it connects everything.
All right, we've broken down this intricate COSO framework in incredible detail. So what does this all mean for an organization in the real world? What are the truly tangible bottom-line benefits of genuinely integrating and championing ERM? Why should any organization actually bother with all this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The overarching objective, remember, is to provide management and stakeholders with that reasonable expectation that strategies will be achieved, while acknowledging no one has a crystal ball.
Right.
Organizations that commit to building and maintaining a strong ERM system, one truly integrating risk management with strategy and performance, are far more likely to realize significant, measurable benefits directly related to value creation and preservation.
It pays off.
It does. It shifts risk management from being seen as a mere compliance burden or a cost center to being recognized as a powerful strategic enabler.
And what are some of those key measurable benefits organizations can genuinely expect to see? Can you list some out?
Absolutely. Companies effectively integrating ERM are demonstrably more likely to. First, increase the range of opportunities. By systematically considering all reasonable possibilities, not just threats, they uncover new avenues for value creation others might miss. Analyzing risks often exposes latent opportunities.
Turning threats into opportunities.
Exactly. Like analyzing market shifts might reveal an unmet customer need leading to a new product line. Second, increase positive outcomes and reduce negative or unexpected outcomes. Proactive management leads to more predictable success, fewer costly surprises, fewer operational disruptions, project overruns, major financial losses, or reputational damage. A more stable path.
More predictable. Okay.
Third, better manage entity-wide risk. Moving beyond silos to a holistic view prevents risks falling through cracks, allows optimal resource allocation to address significant enterprise-level risks, a unified command center.
Got it.
Fourth, reduce performance variability. Anticipating risks better minimizes their impact, making performance more consistent, reliable, predictable. Fewer swings in results, stable operations, builds trust with stakeholders.
Consistency is key.
And fifth, improve and optimize the use of resources. When risks are clearly understood, resources, money, talent, tech can be allocated far more effectively to areas with greatest impact on value creation and preservation. Smart, risk-informed investment.
So it's not simply about avoiding failure at all costs. It's about profoundly increasing the chances of success, fostering innovation, and making demonstrably smarter, more strategic decisions with every valuable resource. It really enables better performance.
Precisely. It's a strategic advantage. 3.2, applying ERM concepts. A quick recap in practice.
Okay, to bring all these sophisticated concepts together, could you provide us with a concise, practical run-through of how these ERM components would apply in a real-world organizational context? Almost like a mental checklist for a leader listening in.
Absolutely. Let's try to summarize that flow. Think of it as a continuous cycle of strategic engagement for each component, for governance and culture. First, the entity defines its mission and vision, shaped by risk attitudes defining its risk appetite. Establishes proper operating structure, management oversight, embeds core values, hires and retains competent people, ensures everyone understands purpose, operations, how to think about risk.
Setting the foundation and mindset.
Exactly. For strategy and objective setting, leadership considers not just amount of risk, but how it's perceived and addressed, refines objectives within business context, determines risk capacity, the maximum risk absorbable, aligns measurable targets with risk appetite, consciously choosing a path, understanding risks, defining tolerance limits.
Charting the course, knowing the limits.
For performance, develops comprehensive risk inventory, isolates, prioritizes relevant risks by analyzing likelihood impact, creating a risk profile, establishes risk tolerance for variability within appetite, implements risk responses, accept, avoid, pursue, reduce, share to bring profile within bounds. Practical, day-to-day execution, managing risks for outcomes.
Executing the plan, managing actively.
Right, for review and revision. Continuously reviews objectives and targets, ideally set where risk profile is less than appetite. Evaluation involves judgment, allowing variability. As context shifts, practice is revised to sustain alignment with risk appetite. Continuous learning, adaptation loop, ensuring relevance and agility.
Learning and adjusting.
Always. And for information, communication, and reporting. Continuously reviews, communicates refined results and insights. Ensures internal external stakeholders have timely, relevant, actionable info on risks, performance, culture, fosters transparency, accountability, informed decisions across the organization, the vital communication system.
Keeping everyone informed and aligned. That paints a really clear picture of the whole cycle in action. 4.1, the evolving landscape. Why ESG is crucial. This entire framework, while incredibly powerful for traditional business risks like financial or operational challenges, feels especially relevant now. The world is evolving rapidly, and entirely new categories of risk are emerging and taking center stage. I'm thinking specifically about environmental, social, and governance ESG risks. How does this comprehensive framework adapt to integrate and address these increasingly critical considerations?
That's an excellent and timely point. Yes, ESG-related risks are rapidly becoming not just relevant, but absolutely fundamental to an entity's ability to exist, sustain, and thrive long-term.
Okay.
As the global risk landscape continuously shifts, new complexities emerge. A strong, adaptive system is absolutely imperative. It ensures strategy and objectives remain aligned with risk appetite, especially concerning these broader societal and environmental impacts. What might have once been dismissed as soft or non-financial risk,
Yeah, people used to say it.
it's now unequivocally understood to have immense material impact on long-term viability, brand reputation, license to operate, ultimately profitability. Companies ignoring or mishandling ESG risks do so at their extreme peril.
So just to ensure clarity for our listeners, could you quickly define what we mean by environmental, social, and governance issues in this context? They're pretty broad categories.
Certainly. These three categories provide a comprehensive framework for understanding a company's broader impact, responsibilities, risks beyond purely traditional financial metrics. Environmental issues encompass broad matters like pollution, deforestation, biodiversity loss, resource depletion, critically, climate change. ESG involves positive efforts toward environmental protection, sustainability.
Like emissions, wastewater use.
Exactly. Reducing emissions, responsible waste management, conserving water, promoting biodiversity. A manufacturer's risk might involve harmful emissions, excessive water use, hazardous waste disposal leading to fines, reputational damage, operational disruptions. Social issues cover a wide array of legal social matters related to relationships with employees, customers, suppliers, communities, occupational health safety, fair labor practices, human rights and supply chain, customer relations, data privacy, employee diversity inclusion, community engagement. ESG promotes socially responsible behavior.
So how you treat people and communities.
Precisely. Social risk could be a labor dispute, product recall, data breach, accusations of human rights abuses in the supply chain, impacts reputation, loyalty, legal standing, and governance issues. Relate to the internal system of practices, controls, procedures for governing itself, making decisions, complying with law, meeting stakeholder needs, proactive diverse boards, succession planning, fair compensation, promoting diversity, strong data security, preventing bribery fraud, avoiding insensitive remarks, preventing discrimination. ESG encourages positive efforts for sustainable ethical outcomes.
So the internal plumbing, the ethics.
Exactly. Poor governance is a significant risk multiplier. Often leads to financial misconduct, lack of accountability, chaos, breakdown of trust, the integrity of the system itself.
So how does the established framework with its 5 components actually apply to effectively address these complex, multifaceted ESG risks? It seems like a perfect fit, but how does it work in practice?
Well, the inherent beauty and power of the CSO framework lie in its remarkable adaptability. It's not rigid, it's flexible. Entities can seamlessly apply its 5 components to identify, assess, respond to, report on ESG risks with the same rigor as traditional risks.
Same framework, different risks.
Right. Critically, by integrating ESG values directly into corporate decision-making at every level, ERM elevates ESG from merely periodic compliance reporting to a central, indispensable element of strategic planning and performance management. It recognizes ESG risks are intrinsically interconnected with financial, operational, reputational risks, often the root cause of significant value erosion. It's about building a truly resilient, future-proof organization. 4.2, applying ERM components to ESG risks. Examples in action.
Okay, let's really bring this home. Could you walk us through how each of the 5 ERM components applies specifically to ESG considerations? Maybe give some concrete examples of these principles in action.
Absolutely. Let's walk through them. It shows how the framework provides a robust, practical structure for managing ESG, turning abstract concepts into actionable strategies. First, with governance and culture for ESG-related risks. This focuses on oversight and culture. For ESG, it's vital management is aware of and profoundly understands applicable ESG risks.
Understanding is key.
Yes. Gaining deeper comprehension of mandatory regulations, like carbon reporting, and voluntary initiatives, like UN SDGs. Ensuring collaborative, cross-functional info sharing on ESG risks, breaking down silos between, say, sustainability and finance.
Get everyone talking.
Exactly. Actively considering and recruiting individuals with deep ESG skills during hiring and talent management, infusing expertise at all levels, including the board. The tone at the top must clearly, consistently signal ESG's strategic importance. If the board has a sustainability committee or the CEO regularly talks transparently about environmental targets, that message permeates, encouraging everyone to address ESG risks. Next, strategy and objective setting for ESG-related risks. Here, management must explicitly consider the impact of strategy and objectives on nature and society. Short, medium, long-term horizons.
Looking at the broader impact.
Right. Building on foundational knowledge, gain deeper understanding of potential impacts by rigorously analyzing existing and emerging ESG risks. For example, an apparel company planning a new plant in a developing country must factor in environmental footprint, water, waste, community impact, labor, displacement labor practices, wages, safety from inception.
So build it into the plan from day one.
Yes. Strategic objectives might include specific targets for reducing wastewater, ensuring fair living wages, using 100% renewable energy, aligning with ESG commitments and risk appetite, designing value that benefits more than just shareholders. Moving on to performance for ESG-related risks, the action component. Identifying, assessing, prioritizing, responding to ESG risks. ERM risks linked to ESG often include reputational, operational, credit, market, compliance, liquidity risks.
How do you identify these ESG risks?
Identification, diverse approaches, megatrend analysis, TIGG, impact of global warming on agriculture. SWOT analysis for ESG factors, impacts dependency mapping, how operations impact depend on ecosystems, social structures, extensive stakeholder engagement, consulting employees, communities, NGOs, investors.
For people.
Critically important. A stakeholder workshop might discuss potential risk events, likelihood, impact, root causes, prevention methods. Collaboration between risk management and sustainability practitioners is key. Consider a pharma company concerned about reputational risk from unfair drug pricing.
Right, the example from earlier.
Yes. Governance fraud and social customer relations issues contribute. Stakeholders discuss likelihood of predatory pricing perception, impact, ways to prevent it, maybe tiered pricing based on income, assessment and prioritization. Leveraging specialized ESG expertise is crucial to appropriately assess severity and communicate it clearly. Bringing in specialists in climate science, human rights, governance for nuanced understanding. Quantify where possible.
Need the right expertise.
Response. Understanding risk source, cost-benefit of responses, aligning with risk appetite is vital. Thorough understanding of short, medium, long-term impacts ensures appropriate response. Responding to climate risk like rising sea levels, threatening coastal facilities might involve long-term relocation plans, medium-term flood defenses, short-term emergency plans, layered responses. Fourth, review and revision for ESG-related risks. Continuously assessing internal-external changes ensures ESG risks are properly identified, prioritized, seeking ongoing improvements to ESG risk responses.
Staying agile.
Absolutely. The regulatory landscape around ESG constantly evolves. New reporting standards, carbon taxes, supply chain laws requires agility. New climate science, shifts in consumer ethics, demand for ethical products, new human rights standards all require review and revision of strategies and responses. ESG management is a continuous journey, not a destination. Finally, information, communication, and reporting for ESG-related risks. Core objective, keep management and stakeholders informed for decisions, accountability. ESG reporting can be internal or external, mandatory or voluntary.
Transparency is crucial here.
Critical. Given ESG complexity, accurate, verifiable data reporting prevents greenwashing, ensures credibility. Examples of climate disclosures: oversight governance of climate risks, integration into ERM, plans to reduce risks, specific metrics for financial disclosure, impact on financials, GHG emissions metrics, scope 1, 2, 3, climate targets goals. This transparency allows stakeholders, investors, consumers to hold organizations accountable, make informed decisions.
This really brings home how ERM isn't just static, but a remarkably dynamic, indispensable tool, adapting to the most pressing challenges, from financial stability to planetary health and social equity. It's about building deep systemic resilience for a complex future.
That's the essence of it. Resilience and adaptation. Hashtag tag tag outro.
Wow, what an illuminating deep dive into enterprise risk management. We've journeyed from its foundational purpose, creating, preserving, realizing value, through its intricate framework of intertwined components, all the way to its absolutely critical modern application in navigating complex, rapidly emerging ESG risks. It's undeniably clear that ERM is far more than just a corporate buzzword or a compliance exercise. It is the strategic compass, the robust architecture for navigating uncertainty and ensuring an organization can not only survive, but genuinely thrive and innovate in our ever-changing world.
Indeed. We've seen how ERM, through those 5 meticulously intertwined components: governance and culture, strategy and objective setting, performance, review and revision, and information, communication, and reporting, creates a powerful, holistic, adaptive system.
Yeah, whole system.
This integrated system empowers organizations to clearly define their risk appetite, make deeply informed, calculated decisions, and proactively manage that delicate, dynamic balance between seizing opportunity and mitigating risk in their relentless pursuit of value. It's about building a fundamentally robust, remarkably adaptive approach. Not just reacting to problems after they emerge, but intelligently pursuing possibilities by anticipating, preparing, and evolving.
So what does all this profound insight mean for you listening in? Perhaps you'll now look at company news, a new product launch, or even a major strategic acquisition through a completely different lens, maybe understanding the risk appetite driving those moves. Or perhaps you'll recognize the unseen yet crucial importance of culture in how organizations gracefully handle unexpected challenges and learn from setbacks. For me, well, it's certainly given me a new, profound appreciation for the often unseen architecture and strategic thinking that empowers companies to innovate boldly, grow responsibly, and build enduring value.
And as you reflect on this deep dive, maybe consider this provocative thought. If an organization's core values truly dictate its culture and its appetite for risk, what does the growing undeniable emphasis on ESG risks, environmental stewardship, social equity, ethical governance reveal about the profoundly evolving core values of society itself?
Interesting.
And how might this fundamental shift in societal values continue to reshape and redefine the very future of business strategy, far beyond what we consider traditional risk management today?
A truly fascinating question to ponder and wrestle with. Thank you so much for joining us on this enlightening deep dive. Until next time, keep digging for those incredibly valuable nuggets of knowledge.